Welcome to Through a Glass Darkly Radio. You're listening to us on United Public Radio. And the intro music was Mark of the Doomslayer by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. All right. So I would say today is going to be a little bit more speculative, uh, given, the reptilians are reported a lot less often in abductee accounts. So there's that. Also, putting that aside, uh, the apparently the intelligence community is trying to retard AI in order to prevent the pretty early successes that folks have had in piecing together the whole cover up. So, which is predictably stupid. And the reason it's stupid is because what it's going to do is it's going to lead researchers to just move to Chinese AI and start compiling information through there. So by censoring information and just making a mockery of our ability to use AI to gather open source intelligence on open source materials, all this stuff is in the open. It's all open. But the maniacs who are in charge of the tyranny that runs our world, that's just too much. We're becoming too smart too fast. So that's kind of what's going on right now. But that's what's going to happen. You want to force people to leverage Chinese resources. That's what's going to happen. So for folks who are supposed to be managing national security, why don't you turn the aperture of your panopticon away from the American people and onto the Chinese, okay? Because that's basically what you're doing. You're focusing all your efforts and you're wasting tax dollars and resources on the American people when it should be on the Chinese. Because you do that, then we're going to seek information from somewhere else, right? It's a new reality. Figure it out, okay? But stop threatening people and stop going after people and stop trying to subvert the basic nature of reality by eliminating a tool that just takes open source information that's widely available on the internet and seeks to stifle it. Okay? Like you're you're becoming the enemy. You're becoming the global panopticon. You're becoming the 1984 totalitarian regime that we or George Orwell so worried about. Just stop it. Okay? It's not it's not that inconceivable that we're not the only people in the universe, especially given the rife incompetence of people who are in charge. All right, now that that rant is over, and I got that off my chest, um, let's see what the comments have, and then folks have to say, and then I'll get started. Yep, that's right, Overlander, BC. They're definitely being reported less often. So what does that say? So B8 is saying reptilians aren't involved as much in abductions for some reason. You don't see the Walton family working in Walmart. Who is in fact not true. Yeah, by the way, did you see how the big whistleblowers got a mild case of scyphilis? They couldn't testify in the skiff. They all got sick. They all got sick. You know what I did in the army when I got sick? I got on my fucking tank, I put on my big boy pants, and I did my job. And if for something that was simple as a training exercise, if I was sitting on the edge of my tank, puking my guts out, tough. That's my job. This whole thing's an op. It's an op. They all have scyphilis, okay? Right? They're just a mysterious illness that doesn't allow them to testify. It's all an op. So, like, just circumvent them. Use AI to learn as much as you can, and soon enough, you'll have to use Chinese AI because they'll try to censor it like they censor everything. All right, sorry, I'm just going through there. Hey, Timepiece Adventures, good to see you. Happy Saturday, happy evening. Sunday evening. Yep, yep. Oh, Vegas Reptilians. I didn't hear about that. Yeah, I guess it kind of looked like a mohawk. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's get started formally. Now, if I could only pull up the actual document that I need. Okay. All right. The reptilian enigma, from ancient serpent gods to shape-shifting alien overlords. Uncoiling an ancient mystery. The ideas of reptilians, intelligent reptile-like beings, slithers through human history and modern myth alike. From ancient serpent deities guarding hidden wisdom to today's UFO abduction reports of scaly humanoids, these entities have captured our darkest imaginations. In this solo deep dive, we'll explore the entire reptilian saga in different segments, tracing their roots in mythology, their emergence in 20th century fiction and conspiracies, chilling up abductee testimonies, alleged government cover ups, and the wild claims of shape shifting elites. Along the way, we'll hear quotes from lore and whistleblowers, examine theories of their origins, so extraterrestrial, inner Earth, or even interdimensional, and unpack their reported physiology, behavior, and grand agenda. By the end, you'll see how the reptilian conspiracy connects ancient symbolism and modern paranoia, a story millennia in the making. All right, so in the first segment, we're going to discuss serpent gods and ancient legends, the mythological roots of the serpent men. Humanity's fascination with reptilian beings begins in our oldest myths. Serpents and half human, half snake deities appear across the world's folklore, often as powerful figures dwelling in hidden realms. In South Asian tradition, for example, the Nagas are a race of serpent demigods who reside in the underground world of Patala and can take human form. Many cultures revered serpents as guardians of knowledge or gateways to the divine. From the feathered serpent of Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica to the dragon emperors of East Asia. Even in the Bible, a cunning serpent in Eden tempts humankind. Oh, ChatGPT, don't use that crappy language. Tempts mankind, okay? Good Lord. Just a made up word. All right. A motif, it's either mankind or humanity. This humankind shit is just, we don't do that here, okay? So a cunning serpent in Eden tempts mankind, a motif some later interpret as an early reptilian intervention. The common thread is the serpent's dual nature, revered as a source of wisdom and immortality, yet feared as a deceiver lurking in the shadows. Ancient myth and archaeology provide intriguing anchors for today's reptilian lore. Conspiracy theorists often point to mysterious artifacts like the Ubaid, lizard baby figurines as evidence that ancient peoples might have encountered or worshipped reptile like humanoids. Likewise, certain Sumerian gods have been reinterpreted through a conspiratorial lens. The Anunnaki, major deities in Mesopotamian myth, were described in ancient texts as judge like overlords of fate. In the 20th century, popular writers speculated these Anunnaki were actually extraterrestrials. Later, conspiracy author David Icke went further, claiming these gods were literal reptilian overlords in antiquity. He asserts that myths of dragon-like gods and serpent demigods were not just symbolism, but actual memories of reptilian beings interacting with early civilizations. While mainstream historians see no evidence that Sumer's Anunnaki were reptiles, the serpent archetype undeniably slithered into our oldest stories, laying a cultural foundation for the reptilian narratives to come. Occult lore from the 19th century gave new life to these ancient serpent ideas. In 1888, Helen Blavatsky's influential work, The Secret Doctrine, spoke of dragon men, who once had a mighty civilization on the Lemurian continent. This theosophical legend imagined a lore or a lost prehistoric world ruled by serpent-like men. Such notions blurred the line between myth and pseudo-history, seeding the idea that ancient reptilian beings might have been factual. As we'll see, these dragon men concepts heavily inspired later fiction and conspiracy theories about reptilian humanoids lurking in Earth's past. All right, in the next segment, we're going to talk about pulp fiction to conspiracy, early 20th century reptilian lore. In the early 20th century, reptilian beings slithered from myth into modern fiction and fringe belief. A key moment came in 1929 with a fantasy story that would unexpectedly spawn an enduring conspiracy motif. Pulp writer Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan the Barbarian, yes, that Conan the Barbarian, with Arnold Schwarzenegger and whatnot, published The Shadow Kingdom in Weird Tales magazine, featuring ancient serpent men as villains. Howard's serpent men had human bodies with snake-like heads and could shapeshift to impersonate trusted humans. They lived underground and used mind control and illusion to infiltrate human society, a premise that will sound very familiar to fans of modern reptilian lore. Howard was explicitly influenced by Blavatsky's Lemurian dragon men and Atlantis tales, transplanting those occult ideas into pulp adventure. The concept proved influential. Other fantasy horror writers like Clark Ashton Smith and H.P. Lovecraft, by the way, among two of my favorite authors, picked up Howard's Serpent Men theme, integrating scaly shapeshifters into the nascent Cthulhu mythos of the 1930s. Crucially, what began as fiction soon blurred into alleged fact. In 1940, American occultist Maurice Doreal, a.k.a. Claude Doggins, wrote a pamphlet, Mysteries of the Gobi, depicting a secret serpent race with human bodies and snake heads who could take human form. He later penned the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, claiming to translate ancient Atlantean tablets, which warned of serpent beings who walked among men in disguise. Scholars note that Doreal's fantastical ideas were likely lifted from Howard's pulp story. Nonetheless, Doreal treated them as esoteric history, effectively converting pulp fiction into conspiracy lore. His writings introduced mystical elements, Atlantean tablets, serpent priests, that would resurface decades later in the theories of David Icke. By mid-century, the idea of reptilian humanoids had seeped into UFO and Fortean circles as well. A peculiar 1934 news story out of Los Angeles told of an engineer. And by the way, this was literally an article in the Los Angeles Times in 1934. This is real. I've seen pictures and the article and all that good stuff. So a peculiar 1934 news story out of Los Angeles told of an engineer, G. Warren Schufelt, who claimed to discover underground tunnels of a prehistoric lizard people civilization beneath the city, though his supposed maps and radar findings led nowhere. Such tales, half hoax and half folklore, kept alive the notion that subterranean reptilian beings might still dwell beneath our feet. In the 1960s, the theme evolved further with the rise of UFO contactee stories, as we'll explore next. The groundwork was laid, a mix of ancient legend, occult speculation, and sci-fi imagination had forged the reptilian archetype in the cultural subconscious by the late 20th century. And then there's our next segment, Close Encounters of the Scaly Kind, UFOs and abductee testimonies. As UFO sightings and alien abduction claims exploded in the late 20th century, reptilians began making dramatic appearances in experiencers' stories. While the quintessential alien in pop culture was the thin gray being, a subset of abduction reports describe encounters with tall, lizard-like humanoids that seemed to emanate menace and authority. One of the earliest known reports came from a small-town police officer in 1967. Herbert Shermer of Ashland, Nebraska, claimed under hypnosis that he had been taken aboard a UFO by beings that had a slightly reptilian appearance. He remembered humanoids with greenish-gray skin, slanted cat-like eyes, and an emblem on their uniforms depicting a winged serpent. Shermer's account, though deemed a hoax by skeptics, became UFO legend, one of the first to suggest aliens with serpentine attributes. It introduced motifs like snake insignia and reptilian features that would recur in later stories. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, more abductees and contactees began to speak of encounters with intimidating reptilian creatures. UFO researchers like Carla Turner, PhD, documented abduction narratives involving reptilian beings often taller than humans, with scaly skin, clawed hands, and hypnotic eyes. These entities were typically malevolent in tone. Abductees reported feeling an almost predatory intelligence from them. Some disturbing accounts involve physical assaults or psychological domination. For example, cases where a person wakes up to a hulking reptilian figure pinning them down, allegedly feeding off their fear or sexual energy. Dr. Turner and others noted how frequently sexual violation or energy extraction themes arose in reptilian abduction reports, hinting at a parasitic agenda. While such testimonies are impossible to verify, the consistency of details is eerie. Abductees often describe the reptilians as powerfully built, 6 to 8 feet tall, with green, brown, or even black scaly skin, snake-like eyes with vertical pupils, and sometimes a tail or protrusions on the head. Telepathic communication is frequently noted. Witnesses say the creatures could invade their mind or paralyze them with a stare. In some reports, the reptilians work in tandem with the more familiar gray aliens. Abductees have described scenarios of gray beings doing medical procedures while reptilian oversees in the background, suggesting a hierarchy. We'll revisit the idea of a reptilian chain of command over grays later in this broadcast. These harrowing experiences give a new, fearsome face to UFO lore. Aliens not as curious experimenters, but as cold-blooded manipulators. An experiencer quoted by researcher Barbara Lamb gave a chilling description of a reptilian she encountered. Quote, "He stood about 7 feet tall, with skin like a crocodile. His eyes were yellow with black slits. When our eyes met, I felt a jolt, like he was inside my head. I've never felt such raw intimidation. It wasn't as if I were prey." End quote. This evocative testimony echoes many others, painting the reptilian as an apex predator in the alien menagerie, one that views humans as resources, not equals. All right, let's take a brief break, see what folks have to say. Okay. So Overlander BC is saying, from what I understand, the Dracos work with private contractors and have always maintained a connection with the upper echelons of society through the ages. People are easy puppets. I have no idea, Tribble Nubbins, if a cat is more afraid of a reptilian or a cucumber. Overlander BC is saying they're winged Dracos and without wings. Non-winged are the lower class of them and do most of the work, while the winged Dracos are their ruling class. Nick D writes, reptilians run and control this prison planet. Overlander BC writes, what's so bizarre to me is how society is almost programmed to scoff and laugh at anyone who talks about reptilians and encourages talk about grays, cat people, and dogmen. Yeah, you raise a good point. In fact, you will see a concrete demonstration of that point in the description of this particular episode. YouTube will put a context bar saying that like reptilians are not real. It's like, why does YouTube feel it necessary to do that? I mean, if the government's official position is none of this is real, right? So why do they feel it's necessary to put that warning? They don't do that with grays. They just do it with reptilians. Why? It's weird. It's totally weird. All right, I'm not touching that one. Yeah, I'm trying to stay out of politics, guys. I'm just trying to make this family entertainment here. Roger Claiborne. Oh, you're still talking. You guys are still talking about Canada. I gotta. Yeah, exactly. Stop it. Stop it, guys. There's something creepy going on, and all of it's stage managed. It feels like it's all stage managed. Like election. Well, I'm not gonna. I gotta be careful because if I say too much, this thing will get banned. William Schwant, God bless your heart. He writes, "Yeah, I still believe in the system. What can I say? Yeah, I don't. If they want to destroy you, they'll destroy you. They'll use whatever laws they need to destroy you. So just keep your mouth shut and pay your taxes. That's the only way to survive." All right. Yeah, Overland, you're right. We're just a simulated democracy. We're a simulated republic down here. Um, it's most of it's probably fake. Oh, enjoy Las Vegas, Jalea Jalal. How you doing this year? All right, I'm just trying to get through these comments quickly, but and I'm going to get back to. Okay. All right, I'm just trying to get through this. Let's see. Da, da, da. Interesting. Google Dale A. Russell dinosauroid. It fits the description. Interesting. I have no idea. Well, we'll get to we'll get to all that those theories, Scott, when I continue. All right, Corey Fro is saying I've listened to a bunch of experiencers talk about grays and mantids, but I'd never heard a reputable reptilian story. Can you suggest one? Pescagoula. Although they're still kind. I mean, they're sort of reptilian-like, but that would probably be the most reputable that immediately leaps to my mind. But yeah, Pescagoula. Okay. I really like you coming here too, William. Yep, exopolitics or it's some interdimensional politics. Who knows? I have interviewed him on this channel, but I haven't specifically focused on reptilians. But you're right, he has like a whole database that he's put together. Let's see. Yes, there. Oh wait, there is an inner Earth thesis, Jacob, but we'll get to that. Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, V. That's a great show. Also, Jason Sands, I think, noted that like whenever he was listening in on people, whenever the reptilians came up, they would say, "Don't even talk about that." Yeah, I think that's the next section I'm about to get into, JG. reptilians at Dulce Base. Yeah, it's not sometimes, Roger. It was that's why they were here. They were collecting water and food, according to the movie. Huh. So Dale A. Russell posited that if the Trudon had not gone extinct, it would have evolved into a bipedal species very similar to the. Maybe they didn't go extinct. Maybe they just went underground. Who knows? Yeah. Yes, Sarfati, I guess, has reported them. All right, let's I'm gonna just put a star next to someone so I know where to start next time. Maybe it'll save me time. All right, let's get back to it. Okay. Underground bases and insider leaks, the Dulce and Serpo files. No exploration of the reptilian mythos would be complete without delving into the murky world of whistleblowers and conspiracy leaks. During the 1980s and 90s, a number of individuals came forward with sensational claims about secret underground facilities and covert alien programs, and reptilians were often at the heart of these stories. A centerpiece of this lore is the alleged Dulce base in New Mexico. According to urban legend, Dulce is a sprawling multi-level underground lab where a covert conflict between humans and aliens took place. The most famous whistleblower, Phil Schneider, was a former geological engineer who claimed in 1995 that he worked on building deep underground military bases, DUMBs, including Dulce. Schneider recounted a terrifying 1979 incident where drilling crews broke into a cavern infested with hostile aliens. A firefight ensued, and he was injured by a beam weapon blast to the chest. In his dramatic account, Schneider said 7-foot tall reptilian humanoids emerged from the darkness, blasting soldiers with advanced weaponry. He described the one he confronted in visceral terms: scaly skin, a reptile like odor of burnt sulfur, and an utterly non human presence. Schneider's story, while unverified and widely doubted, injected the image of violent subterranean reptilians into conspiracy culture. Complementing Schneider's tale was the so-called Dulce Papers, the testimony of Thomas Costello, who purported to be a security officer at that base. In fringe circles, Costello's narrative is legendary for its rich detail. He claimed that reptilians co-inhabited the Dulce facility alongside U.S. government scientists and gray aliens. In fact, according to Costello, the reptilians there were not guests but cooperators, treating humans as inferiors. He described a strict caste system among the reptilian ranks: a lower worker class with dull greenish brown scales, a warrior class that was taller with bony ridges and formidable strength, an elite royal Draco class, towering albino white reptilians with horn-like crests who possessed potent telepathic abilities. These Draco beings were said to be the only ones truly in charge, even capable of psychically controlling human workers when needed. Costello alleged that joint genetic experiments were being carried out at Dulce, with reptilians overseeing the work of the smaller greys. Ultimately, his story grows, conflict broke out, the so-called Dulce Wars, and he fled with a cache of data. While no hard evidence of Costello or his papers exists outside conspiracy forums, his detailed testimony greatly fleshed out the reptilian conspiracy mythos. Beyond Dulce, whispers of government contact with reptilian aliens have surfaced in other leaked narratives. Retired aerospace engineer William Tompkins, for instance, claimed that during World War II and the Cold War, factions of reptilian aliens from the Draco system were in contact with both Nazi Germany and the U.S. military. Tompkins asserted these reptilians had a hand in influencing human military programs and sought influence over our political structures. According to him, they were telepathic and manipulative, using their strategic prowess to foster conflict, effectively playing puppet master in human affairs. Not all insider stories involve reptilians as villains, however. An interesting contrast is Project Serpo, an alleged top-secret program between the U.S. government and an alien race from Zeta Reticuli, often presumed to be gray aliens. The Serpo story surfaced in 2005 via anonymous posts on a UFO forum claiming that 12 American personnel were sent to an alien planet in a cultural exchange. While Serpo's Eben extraterrestrials were not reptilian, the tale showed how elaborate and specific these secret government alien conspiracy theories could get. Details varied widely, and one key source, Sergeant Richard Doty, Ricky Ticky Doty, was later revealed as a known disinformation agent, but the saga captivated UFO enthusiasts. We mentioned Serpo here to illustrate the broader context. By the 2000s, conspiracy lore encompassed a whole menagerie of alien interactions, from benign scientists to sinister lizards. Reptilians remained the darkest of the bunch, often cast as the puppet masters even above the Greys. It's worth noting that during the 1980s, U.S. intelligence agencies may have fueled some alien conspiracies intentionally. Tricky Ricky Doty's role in the Paul Benowitz affair, feeding a UFO researcher wild tales of underground alien bases causing him distress, is documented. Some speculate that the Dulce myth itself grew from a mix of Benowitz's genuine observations and disinformation aimed to mislead, in a twist worthy of an X-Files episode, Truth and Deception Entangled. But in that tangle, the figure of the malevolent reptilian took root and thrived. All right, moving on to our next segment. Shape-shifting entities. David Icke's Conspiracy of Everything. All right, here we go, boys and girls. Put your tinfoil hats on and get ready to go. Although, while I'm skeptical of this, there's no way to disprove it. You can't disprove or prove a counterfactual. If reptilians remained a fringe topic in ufology through the 80s and 90s, one man brought them into infamous global awareness: David Icke, a former UK sports presenter turned conspiracy theorist. Icke, in 1999, published The Biggest Secret, unveiling his theory that shape-shifting reptilian aliens are the hidden hand behind human history. This idea, audacious and bizarre, became his hallmark and attracted a worldwide following. According to Icke's claims, a race of tall, blood-sucking reptilian humanoids from the Alpha Draconis star system, sometimes he calls them the Anunnaki, has been controlling Earth for millennia. These reptilians hide in underground bases like Dulce or under the Earth's crust, and also infiltrate human society by masquerading as humans. Icke asserts they can shapeshift between a human appearance and their true reptoid form, or reptiloid form, or more plausibly use advanced holographic projections or mind manipulations to fool us into seeing regular people. The crux of Icke's conspiracy is that most world leaders and elites, past and present, are actually these reptilians, or their hybrid offspring in disguise. He has infamously named specific figures and families, the British royal family, for example, and U.S. presidents from the Bush family to others he alleges are of the reptilian bloodline. He ties this into a narrative of Illuminati-style secret societies claiming that ancient Babylonian brotherhoods and aristocratic bloodlines carry the reptilian DNA and have been stage managing world events from behind the scenes. Icke's shapeshifter theory is sweeping in scope, encompassing ancient history. He retrofits the Garden of Eden tale as an Anunnaki genetic intervention. Mythology, dragons and vampires as distorted memories of the reptilians, noting that Draco in Latin means dragon. In modern events, he suggested even current world crises are engineered by these entities to keep humans in fear. A particularly disturbing element of his claims is that these reptilians feed off human fear and negative energy, a concept borrowed from occult ideas of loosh or energy vampirism. Some even allege they consume human blood or flesh to maintain their human disguises. Icke often references global child abuse scandals and blood drinking rituals as part of the reptilian control system, which has led to significant controversy for obvious reasons. Despite the outrageous nature of these claims, Icke's work gained a substantial audience. By the 2010s, he reported having supporters in up to 47 countries and drew thousands to his lectures. Polls have indicated that a non-trivial minority of the public is aware. of, and in some cases believes, the idea that lizard people run the world. For example, a 2013 US poll found around 4% of voters subscribed to some form of Icke's reptilian theory. His conspiracy web is so broad that it has been criticized for essentially absorbing classic anti Semitic tropes, the hidden cabal theory, under a sci fi mask, an allegation Icke vehemently denies, insisting he really does mean literal reptilians. Nonetheless, the parallels have been noted by scholars. Love him or loathe him, David Icke cemented the reptilian shapeshifter in the public consciousness. Suddenly, reptilian became a pop culture term featured in memes, TV parodies, and YouTube videos analyzing politicians' eyes for a split second, lizard blink. Icke's legacy is a modern mythology where every ancient serpent god, every dragon tale, every inexplicable tragedy, and every power-hungry leader are all connected, all threads in a grand reptilian agenda. Describing these alleged overlords, Icke writes, quote, "They are 5 to 12 feet tall, can shapeshift to look human, and they drink human blood to maintain their disguise and power." End quote. He contends that from Babylon to Buckingham Palace, the same reptilian consciousness has been rolling through covert action and illusion. It's a theory as sprawling and dramatic as a fantasy novel, except he presents it with deadly seriousness. All right, let's move on to the next segment. Anatomy of a reptilian. Physiology, behavior, and tactics. What do reptilians look like, and how do they act? Across myth, fiction, and eyewitness reports, a surprisingly coherent portrait emerges. Whether they are real or not, the reptilian archetype has well-defined features. Let's start with physical description. Reptilians are typically described as tall, often 7 to 10 feet, bipedal beings with a humanoid body plan but distinctly reptilian features. They have scaled skin that ranges in color from greenish or brown to albino white for the elite caste. The skin may appear rough or scaly, like a lizard or crocodile. Facial features include a somewhat flattened face or snout, with large eyes that have vertical slit pupils, often yellow, green, or red in hue, lending a dragon-like gaze. Many accounts note prominent cranial ridges or bony protrusions on the head and brow, and some depictions include vestigial horns or crests, especially for the draconian type. The mouth is typically a thin, lipless slit that can open wide, revealing sharp teeth. Nostrils are either small slits or absent. Some say they only breathe through the mouth. Ears are usually not visible. In some reports, particularly from underground base lore, reptilians have a long, muscular tail and even wings or wing-like appendages. The latter often associated with the highest rank, the winged dragon royalty in Draco lore. Strength and abilities. Muscular and imposing, reptilians are often said to possess strength far exceeding that of humans. Their reflexes and speed might also be superior, befitting a predator species. A frequently cited attribute is their psychic ability. Most reptilian narratives claim these beings are highly telepathic. They could communicate mind to mind and, more terrifyingly, control or influence human thoughts. Abductees report feeling paralyzed or mentally dominated in a reptilian's presence, as if an overpowering mind had seized theirs. Some conspiracists assert reptilians use holographic technology or innate shapeshifting to pass as human. It's debated whether the shapeshift is physical, metamorphosing form, or perceptual, casting an illusion into the viewer's mind. Either way, deception is a key tactical skill attributed to them. They are often credited with advanced technology as well, especially in military encounter stories, such as handheld beam weapons or devices that allow invisibility. Their senses, eyesight, smell, might be keen. An odd detail that crops up is a small odor about them, often described as sulfur, decay, or something like rotten eggs or sulfur compounds, which people liken to the stench of the devil. Behavior and psychology. Consistently, reptilians are depicted as cold, calculating, and domineering. Emotions like compassion or empathy are absent. Instead, they exude an alien detachment or cruelty. In reports, they often regard humans with contempt or as inferior. Authoritarian demeanor is repeatedly mentioned. They take charge of situations, give orders to other aliens, and expect obedience. The modus operandi of reptilians is stealthy control and manipulation rather than open conquest. They work from the shadows, underground, or behind human facades to achieve goals. Deception is second nature. They are shapeshifters and master manipulators who might promise false benevolence or use fear to get their way. They are often said to be highly intelligent, but in a cunning, predator intelligence way rather than creative or compassionate intellect. Their agenda. Many encounters convey that reptilians have a purpose behind their actions, be it scientific, for instance, genetic experiments, resource-driven, harvesting biological material or energy, or political, i.e. influencing human society. They are not curious explorers. They usually have an agenda of domination or exploitation. In some accounts, they even view Earth as their territory, especially if one believes they've been here since antiquity. This proprietary attitude can manifest its hostility to humans who stumble upon them. One fascinating aspect is how consistent these traits are across unrelated reports and media. A PhD researcher writing on ufology noted that despite the absurdity, the reptilian narratives from different decades present a surprisingly coherent portrait of beings who are power-oriented and structurally hierarchical. Unlike the small grays, often depicted as emotionless lab techs, reptilians come across as warlords or overseers. In fact, some theorists or theories suggest reptilians occupy the top of a cosmic caste system, with grays and other beings as subordinates. For example, William Tompkins claims the reptilians have even engineered the grays to serve them. This paints a picture of might makes right culture, with reptilians as cosmic imperialists valuing power and purity of their bloodline above all. To sum it up, if we imagine a reptilian walking into a room, you'd feel an imposing, cold presence sizing you up. It might communicate directly into your mind. Physically, it would be daunting, perhaps wearing a form-fitting uniform emblazoned with a dragon insignia, as some abductees observed. Its clawed hands and sinewy form, leaving little doubt of its strength. This archetype likely taps into ancient human fears, snakes and predators, dominators without mercy. Psychologist Carl Jung suggests that modern alien figures could be projections of our collective unconscious. In Jungian terms, the reptilian might symbolize our deepest fear of being preyed upon by a superior, amoral force, the ultimate predator, lurking in the dark. Next segment. Origins and theories. Extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, or indigenous, homegrown. Where do these alleged reptilians come from? Over the years, different and not mutually exclusive theories have been proposed. Let's explore the main ones. The first, extraterrestrial invaders, i.e., a Draco Empire. A common theme, especially in ufology and Ike's work, is that reptilians hail from off-world, often the Draco constellation, or specifically a star in Draco, Alpha Draconis, also called Thuban. In this scenario, they are an alien species who arrived on Earth in antiquity or even more recently and set up shop here. Proponents point out the coincidence that Draco, the dragon constellation, has been associated with dragon symbolism in various myths. They imagine a far-reaching draconian empire with Earth as just one planet under attempted subjugation. Some contactees, like Alex Collier, have claimed benevolent aliens warned them of a reptilian species from Alpha Draconis that wants to control or consume humanity. This space origin theory dovetails with ancient astronaut ideas. Reptilians could be the gods who descended from the sky in fiery chariots. The Anunnaki connection is a prime example where Ike and others blend Zechariah Sitchin's ancient aliens with literal reptilians. Okay, the next theory is that they hail from the inner Earth or are ancient terrestrials. Another theory posits that reptilians are native to Earth, either as survivors of a prehistoric intelligent species or a parallel race that evolved alongside humans. Remember the age of dinosaurs. Some speculate a few advanced reptilian beings could have survived extinction by going underground. In fact, in 1982, a paleontologist named Dale Russell, who was mentioned in the comments earlier, conjectured a hypothetical dinosauroid, what a Troodon dinosaur might have evolved into if given 65 million more years. Eerily, his model looked like a humanoid reptile. Conspiracy circles sometimes cite this as evidence that an intelligent dino reptile species could have existed. According to this theory, such a species, often called serpent race or lizard people, might have retreated into subterranean caverns eons ago. They could be the source of our underworld snake legends, nagas, etc., and periodically emerge. Stories like the 1930s LA Lizard City and the constant trope of underground bases feed this idea that deep underground lies the domain of an ancient reptilian civilization. Some even suggest a hollow earth scenario with entire hidden cities. So like Agartha and Shambhala, inhabited by reptilian or reptilian-like beings. Unlike the alien hypothesis, this one casts reptilians as earthlings, perhaps considering us the invaders or upstart tenants on their planet. This might explain their claimed attitude of ownership over Earth in some accounts. Then, of course, there's the interdimensional or ultra-terrestrial explanation. A more metaphysical theory is that reptilians are not from a physical location, but rather from another dimension or plane of reality. David Icke often describes them as operating from the lower fourth dimension, a frequency just outside human perception. In this view, they might be invisible or incorporeal in our 3D space until they choose to manifest. This overlaps with ideas of demons or spirit entities. Reptilians could essentially be demons wearing a sci-fi costume. Some experiencers have reported these beings appearing and disappearing out of thin air as if popping in from another realm. The interdimensional angle also aligns with occult interpretations. For instance, the archons of Gnostic lore, harsh rulers of the material world, are sometimes depicted as reptilian or dragon-like and are said to originate from a plane between material and spiritual. Ultra-terrestrial is a term John Keel of Mothman fame used for entities that aren't alien travelers but indigenous to a hidden aspect of our world. Reptilians could fit that bill. This theory might also account for their supposed psychic powers and ghost-like elusiveness, passing through solid matter, etc., as some stories claim. Then lastly, they could be genetically engineered or of hybrid origin. Some fringe narratives suggest reptilians created themselves through genetic engineering, or they are hybrid creatures. For example, a story floating around claims that reptilians spliced their DNA with early humans to create ruling bloodlines, explaining why those bloodlines can shapeshift. They have the gene. Others think reptilians might be genetically crafted soldiers for some other higher power. There are even tales of them as time-traveling descendants of humans who modified their genes to adapt to a future catastrophe. A very out there idea that essentially makes them our evolutionary offshoot. While these scenarios are highly speculative, they underscore how mysterious the origin question remains in the lore. Each theory attempts to explain the elusiveness of reptilians. If they're aliens, they likely have superior tech and cover-ups. If they're subterranean, they literally live out of sight. If interdimensional, they can come and go like phantoms. In a sense, the origin stories often serve to excuse the lack of concrete evidence. Of course, we can't find them. They're in the fourth dimension. Still, proponents often blend these ideas. One can imagine an extraterrestrial species that established an inner Earth colony and also has one foot in a spiritual dimension. In the grand tapestry of conspiracy lore, reptilians are everywhere and beyond, simultaneously ancient gods, aliens, demons, and hidden neighbors. All right, let's take another quick break to look at the comments. All right, just give me a second. There we go. That was a good technique. Okay. All right, U.S. Army vet 7077. I had a bunch of reptilian experiences. Mine involved a group that said they were here on a military scientific expedition to monitor the planet and its inhabitants. You need to say more about that, U.S. Army vet. Interesting. Jalal Jalal is saying Mormon temples, too, they have been seen. Okay, Overlander BC is writing the Draco race is very possibly who the OT was referring to when it speaks of Yahweh, Old Testament, I guess. And it's not till the New Testament that God is spoken of as a different one. Interesting. Yeah. Martha Stewart looks totally different now. She's in her early 80s, but looks like yeah, that's fair. Yes, thank you, Jalal. Hit the like button. Help out the channel. By the way, after 4 agonizing months, I'm finally out of the 13,000 subscriber doldrums. We're now into 14,000. So thank you, folks who subscribed and who stay subscribed. Stories of reptilians from soldiers in the Vietnam. Interesting. Overlander BC is writing, it can be construed that the Anunnaki created humans. Folks who are watching this, the reason I read this is there's people on the radio who, as I comment, there's no context, so I have to read it. Again, Overlander BC is writing, it can be construed that the Anunnaki created humans and the Dracos were present during that time, and it became convoluted into a mess of history because Julius Caesar forced the amalgamation of all. Okay? Oh, all the gods into one. Okay. Yeah, you're right. DS makes a great point. John Ramirez is also uniquely vocal about them being the reptilians, probably the most in the modern era of UFOs. All right. I'm Cold said, look up Sundung Cave reptilian. Supposedly that's real. Interesting. Okay. Okay. JG 1982 is writing, I've lived in New Mexico and seen very interesting cigar shaped UFO a few years ago. Strange place. Yeah, Serpo could be a psyop for all I know. I mean, yeah, Doty was involved, so probably. All right, so Overlander, BC. It certainly does seem that mankind's progress right now is being purposely hindered, and I agree with that. Doty's still putting up his lemmy. He certainly is. I wear my tinfoil hat from morning to night. Thank you very much, Scott Ian is saying. The Dulce base is reported to be under a Native American reservation near the city of Dulce. There's no acknowledged base. That's JC 1982. I think it's also near Four Corners where there are a lot of sightings. Huh. That's weird. Why did you get ill, Jalal Jalal? Jalal Jalal wrote, I actually got quite ill after reading The Biggest Secret in 1999. Biggest Secret, again, to remind folks what I just went through, is David Icke's book. Overlander BC, I believe Project Serpo is a distraction. I'm sure they've done similar missions, but that one is BS. Yeah, probably. Roger Claiborne is saying, yep, our real leaders used to design a system that encouraged us to become smarter and stronger. Now they want us weak and dead. Yeah, that was a great show. That was amazing. All right, the Stargate SG1 team, headed by Carl Jack O'Neill, never had much fondness for the Gaud snakeheads, except when it came to the Takra, who were kind and shared bodies with their hosts. Triple Nibbins. That was a great show. It's a great science fiction show. All right. Hey, thank you very much, JG1982, for the $2 super sticker or super. I don't know how to tell if it's a super sticker or if it's super thanks, but I appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, so Jalay Jalal is saying, what does everybody think about the scaly grayscale with black and white strangeness that bleeds through on video during live broadcasts? I have no idea. I'm not even going to say that word because I don't think I've ever said that word on air. And if I ever, and God knows if YouTube actually has banned that word or uses that actually communicates more about the nature of the world and reality than anything else. But I'm not willing to test it. Okay. Overlander BC is writing, in 1980, I was watching HBO a show called Not Necessarily the News. They depicted the Pope getting off the plane, and instead of kissing the ground, a forked tongue came out and he ate a bug. Yep. Yep. Sounds about right. Wait, what just happened? Um, this is really annoying. Okay. Yeah, it just like jumped like 30 comments down. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to say anything about that stuff. You know, that's why actually this I don't know if people follow Tupacabra, but he has an interesting theory on that. When that Papa Gulf stuff um about the A word and all that stuff with the Chrome, right, leaked, that was like 2016 or something like that. That's what forced the hand of the government to release some of these Navy videos, at least in his theory, because in that whole gate issue was caused by a massive leak by WikiLeaks, I think. But in that leak, there was also UFO stuff, so that forced the government to start basically a giant modified limited hangout to contain it. Okay, so most of the experiences were not negative. A lot of it was scenario simulation, like how we would act and react in disasters. Test interesting. Fred's right. Back when Ike was based, then he downplayed reptilians and said, "God." Okay, so U.S. Army vet is writing. I met several other people across the U.S. and the world who met the exact same group. Roger Claiborne is saying, I only know what I've experienced, and some of the strange things I've pertinently witnessed have me scratching my head on what it was and was about. All right, I'm just. Hey, Terrence, good to see you. Yeah. Um, Aloha Dave 13 is saying in Virginia or Virginia, Brazil case describes a small being that also fits. Yeah, a little bit. Oh, really? Ike was banned from YouTube for a few years back. He's back on it now and says pretty much the same things. Interesting. Yep, that's true. Ike is entertaining, but you got to remember he makes his living saying things no one else has before. Clickbaiters should be viewed with skepticism. Yep. Yeah. The They Live movie is likely why they're here if they're any truly here. Yeah, it's a great movie, by the way. Huh. Oh, Vinny's writing. I think they did not go in the skiff, so their knowledge cannot be forcibly classified. Mm, yeah, King James. I think that's more likely. They could be an ancient Earth civilization that went underground to avoid global calamities. Oh, vril lizards are parasitic, also. Yeah. Triple Nubbins is an encyclopedia for Stargate SGI SG1. U.S. Army vet 70 is saying David Icke is full of crap. They do not control world leaders. They're not feeding on human blood and flesh, but they are psychic and do some form of fear impression to see if people can resist. All right, sorry, folks. I'm just trying to get through this so I can get to the rest of the. Huh. No, it never hurts to hit the thumbs up. That's fair. That's a fair point, Paul Damon. Humans are the real monsters. Yep, exactly, Fred. The DNC leaks had Podesta emails talking about all that stuff. All right, let's get back to it. Oops. Yep, let's get back. Let me just put a mark down and let's get back to it. All right, motives and agenda. What do the reptilians want? Virtually all narratives agree. Whatever reptilians are, they're not here to make friends. Their alleged agenda can be interpreted on multiple levels, from material goals to spiritual ones. So the most obvious and reductive one, obviously, is global control and power. The most straightforward agenda attributed to reptilians is world domination. They seek to control Earth's governments and institutions to steer humanity in directions that serve them. Under this view, they infiltrate positions of power as shapeshifted leaders or behind the throne puppet masters to create a global tyrannical structure, essentially a new world order run by non-humans. Why? Some say they simply desire power for its own sake, being hierarchical and imperialistic by nature. Earth is a resource-rich planet with an easily manageable population or manipulable population, a ripe prize for any would-be cosmic empire builder. This narrative casts reptilians as the hidden hand behind human tyrants, warmongers, and oppressive regimes throughout history. Even the concept of draconian laws gets a conspiratorial wink, as supposedly named for Draco reptilians. In Ike's version, by controlling leaders and fomenting conflict, they keep humanity divided and less likely to discover the truth. Right? The next intention might be exploitation of humans for resources or food. A darker twist is the idea that reptilians regard humans as livestock or a resource. There are claims that they harvest humans in various ways, from old school blood sacrifice tropes, the reptilians drink human blood or consume human flesh, as Ike describes, to more subtle energy vampirism. Abductee lore sometimes includes reptilians extracting hormonal secretions or using human organs for sustenance or medicine. Oh, here we go. The frightful concept of adreno beep, right? Popular in some conspiracy circles, harvesting fear-infused blood, dovetails with reptilians' reputed love of instilling terror and then literally feasting on it. Some experiencers felt that the reptilians fed on their fear energy like an emotional loosh. If true, that would explain why a reptilian might terrorize a human victim. It's feeding time. On a large scale, this hypothesis goes that reptilians keep our society filled with wars, trauma, and chaos to generate a low-frequency emotional climate on which they thrive, like farmers cultivating negative vibes. Then there could be a genetic and biological agenda. Another recurring motive is genetic experimentation or hybridization. In many abduction cases involving reptilians and or greys, there's a theme of genetic sampling or breeding programs. Some believe reptilians are trying to create hybrid offspring, perhaps, or to better infiltrate humanity, or to solve their own evolutionary problems. A famous conspiracy thread claims that the reptilians need to infuse their gene pool with human DNA to maintain their ability to shapeshift or to stave off degeneration. Alternatively, some say they simply enjoy tinkering with life forms, Dulce-based lore, for example, alleged horrific genetic labs where reptilians and humans produced chimeras and experimented on abductees. If true, the agenda could be scientific domination. Mastering genetics is the ultimate power over life and death. And it could be spiritual warfare. On a cosmic scale, some interpret the reptilian presence as part of the spiritual battle between good and evil. Here, reptilians are often equated with demons, servants of a dark force, opposed to divine light. The occult symbolism surrounding serpents, for instance, in Judeo-Christian tradition, the serpent equals Satan. That ancient serpent of Revelation 12:9 is cast down to deceive the world, is cited as evidence that reptilians are the demonic influence behind false gods and tyrants. In this worldview, humanity's struggle to awaken spiritually is actively thwarted by reptilian entities that sow ignorance, materialism, and cruelty. They might engineer circumstances to keep people vibrating at a low spiritual frequency, fear, hatred, greed, thus preventing enlightenment. David Icke often talks about breaking out of the matrix of perception that these archon-like reptilians have woven to keep humans docile. Some New Age channelers simply warn of reptilian astral beings attaching to auras to block spiritual growth. It's truly the stuff of spiritual sci-fi, casting human society as a grand chess match between reptilian darkness and higher benevolent forces, sometimes identified as Pleiadians, benevolent ETs, or angelic beings helping us. Another intention they might have is preservation of bloodlines and hidden knowledge. On a more secret society level, reptilians are said to guard certain ancient knowledge and their hybrid bloodlines. The emphasis on elite families interbreeding to maintain pure blood, which Icke asserts is in fact reptile DNA, suggests the agenda of a master lineage ensuring its continuation. They may see themselves as rightful rulers, for example, kings by divine or draconic right, and thus manipulate human political systems to keep their progeny in power. Occult traditions like the Brotherhood of the Snake sometimes pop up in these stories, hinting that Sumerian or Egyptian, that since Sumerian or Egyptian times, secret cults served the reptilians by managing the civilizations for them. If true, the agenda might simply be to remain in control from behind the curtain, generation after generation, without revealing their reptilian nature. It's worth noting that not all stories paint all reptilians as purely evil. A minority of contactee tales have even spoken of more neutral or benevolent reptilian beings. For instance, a few experiencers described encounters with wise, ancient reptile-like beings who conveyed spiritual messages. These are rare, but they remind us that reptilian is a broad brush. However, the dominant narrative, as we've outlined, positions them as antagonists in the grand human story. In summary, the reptilian agenda, according to those who believe it, is nothing less than total control of our bodies, our minds, and perhaps our souls. Whether by political puppeteering, direct fear feeding, or spiritual suppression, the end goal seems to be a human race subjugated and exploitable, while the reptilian masters reap the benefits. It's a grim vision that turns our entire world into a farm or theater for entities that regard us the way we regard cattle. Little wonder this idea terrifies and fascinates so many. All right, so in the next segment, we're going to talk about occult symbolism, bloodlines, and the hidden hand, weaving it all together. The reptilian conspiracy theory isn't just about aliens, it's a holistic theory of history, symbolism, and power. In this segment, we'll explore how believers tie reptilians into the occult and Illuminati lore, finding reptile signs in art, emblems, and genealogy. Serpents and symbolism. Conspiracists often re-examine historical symbols and ask, were those snakes meant literally? For example, the serpent in the Garden of Eden that brought about the fall is reinterpreted as a reptilian intervention to derail human paradise, an event some link to the start of the Matrix control system. The symbolism of dragons in European mythology, usually guarding treasures or princesses, is seen as an allegory for reptilians guarding secret knowledge or genetic treasure bloodlines. Even the word dragon, in the context of Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order, and Dracul, Vlad Dracula's name origin, is drawn into Icke's narrative, as he asserts these all hint at an ancient dragon reptile cult. The presence of reptile motifs on royal coat of arms or in corporate logos, for instance, serpents, on medical symbols like the rod of Asclepius or a snake in some bank logos, are scrutinized as hidden in plain sight markers of reptilian influence. While scholars would call that a stretch, most of those symbols have benign explanations. In conspiracy land, nothing is coincidence. For believers, a snake is never just a snake, it's the reptilian signature through the ages. Elite bloodlines, blue blood hypothesis. The phrase blue-blooded, denoting nobility, has taken on scaly connotations. Some proponents claim that royal and elite lineages are hybrid descendants of reptilian-human unions. These tie back to ancient lore, for instance, the union of demigods with humans like Nephilim in the Bible, who some equate with reptilian hybrids. David Icke specifically names the Merovingian dynasty of France, the Rothschild banking family, and of course the British royals as part of a millennia-long Babylonian brotherhood that carries reptilian DNA. According to him, these families and others like certain U.S. presidents are all interrelated, which, to be fair, genealogists have noted many world leaders do share distant kinship. Icke's twist is that the reason for keeping power all in the family is to preserve the reptilian genetic frequency that allows shape-shifting. Marrying commoners or outsiders dilutes the bloodline, so these families obsessively intermarry. It's an updated take on the old royal divine right to rule, except here divine equals alien reptile. Some even speculate that the term blue blood might have originally referred to a copper-based blood chemistry in reptilians. Copper oxide is bluish, think Vulcans from Star Trek. There's no evidence for that, but it's an oft-cited tidbit in reptilian forums. Secret societies and occult orders, hand in hand with bloodline theory, is the idea that secret societies, Illuminati, Freemasons, etc., are either run by reptilians or by human elites worshiping them. For instance, the Freemasonic symbol of a serpent, occasionally shown in some Masonic art, wrapping around a globe, is seized upon as proof that the Masons acknowledge a reptilian global ruler. The Illuminati eye symbol, sometimes combined with a reptile or dragon in illustrations, is interpreted as the all-seeing gaze of the reptilian overlords. Some go so far as to claim that rituals in these societies or dark groups, like alleged satanic cults, are in fact designed to honor or even directly summon reptilian beings. The conspiracy narrative often merges reptilians with devil lore, for instance, the idea that high-level occultists perform blood sacrifices to appease reptilian gods, a modern echo of ancient human sacrifices to serpent dragon deities. Whether it's the Bohemian Grove anecdote of elites in robes worshipping a stone owl, which conspiracists imagine could hide a reptilian meaning, or the prevalence of serpent imagery in ancient Egyptian art, pharaohs with Urius cobra on their crown interpreted as a sign of serpent lineage. Virtually any snake or dragon motif is reread as a puzzle piece in the grand reptilian tapestry. The Archon and Illuminati link. Some researchers, like John Lash, have drawn parallels between Icke's reptilians and the Archons from Gnostic texts. Archons were said to be inorganic entities, deceptive and cold, led by a demiurge, often depicted as reptilian or draconic. The Gnostics taught that archons manipulate humanity via fear and illusion, strikingly similar to the reptilian MO. This has led to a spiritual conspiracy view that the Illuminati and power brokers might consciously or unconsciously be serving these archonic reptilians by perpetuating suffering and ignorance. Under this interpretation, the ultimate war is not one of tanks and guns, but of consciousness, freeing human awareness from the archon reptile influence through enlightenment, love, and truth, versus remaining enslaved in a frequency of fear. It's a lot to take in, but these threads show how the reptilian theory acts as a grand unified conspiracy theory. It wraps up together alien agendas, ancient myth, secret societies, religious symbolism, and modern politics into one enormous narrative. For true believers, it answers everything. Where is there evil in the world? Why do empires rise and fall? Who's really in charge? The answer lies in the shadows, cold-blooded puppet masters weaving millennia-long schemes. Critics, of course, see it as an anti-Semitic trope, repackaged, or a metaphor gone awry. Some psychologists suggest it externalizes our fear of tyrannical authority or even reflects our lizard brain instincts in a fanciful way. But metaphor or not, the reptilian conspiracies have left a mark on culture when thousands of people earnestly discuss whether a politician's awkward blink on camera reveals a second eyelid or whether a celebrity's sudden illness is due to their reptile overlord losing control. We're witnessing a modern myth making in real time. Okay, now we're going to go to brief aside on reptilians versus grays, a brief comparison. Throughout this explanation, we've mentioned the gray aliens occasionally. They're the other superstar of UFO lore, typically short, gray-skinned, big-headed beings famous for abductions in Roswell. It's worth contrasting them with reptilians because the two often appear in the same stories, but very different roles. Role and hierarchy. Greys are often depicted as a worker or drone class, biologically engineered beings tasked with abductions and experiments. They are frequently emotionless, focused on science, collecting samples, running procedures on humans. Reptiles, on the other hand, are nearly always in a command role. They have personality, albeit a sinister one, and willpower, and are seen giving orders or asserting dominance. In Dulce lore, for example, Greys did the day-to-day work while the reptiles ran the show. Reptilians ran the show. Even outside that, abductees who claim to see both species often note that the Greys seem subservient or differential to any reptilian present. This has led to speculation that the Greys might be subordinates or even creations of the reptilians, possibly synthetic beings doing the dirty work for the reptile masters. Motivations. Greys are usually said to be interested in genetics and reproduction. The classic narrative is they have fertility issues and need human DNA. Their demeanor is robotic or clinical. Reptilians are ascribed more political or conquest-oriented motives, as we discussed, control, power, and exploitation. A Grey might abduct you to poke and probe, but a reptilian in reports might show up to intimidate, to claim ownership, or to ensure the Grey's work serves as a grander plan. One could say Greys are interested in individual bodies, microagenda, whereas reptilians are interested in societal control, macroagenda. In terms of emotional presence, people encountering Greys often report fear, but usually because the situation is weird and the beings are uncaring. With reptilians, the fear is often described as overwhelming and radiating from the being itself, as if the reptilian projects dread intentionally. Many experiencers feel a kind of psychic aura of menace around reptilians that they don't around Greys. It's the difference between facing a lab technician and facing a predator. In terms of physicality, Greys are small, frail, maybe 3 to 5 feet tall, with spindly limbs. Reptilians are large, muscular, physically threatening. There are very few cases of Greys physically assaulting people beyond restraining them for procedures. Reptilians, by contrast, have been reported to injure or even kill. In conspiracy lore, they allegedly have murdered underground base personnel, etc. So physically and temperamentally, reptilians are the more aggressive prototype. In terms of public perception and pop culture, Greys got a head start thanks to things like Close Encounters, the Communion book cover, etc., and are seen almost as banal aliens now. Reptilians still carry a fringe, almost taboo vibe, partly due to the extravagant nature of the shapeshifter claims. When someone says they believe in Greys, people might think, oh, they believe in aliens. When someone says they believe in reptilians, people tend to react with, wait, what? Lizard people? It sounds a step further into bizarre. Thus, reptilians remain a more conspiracy-oriented entity, whereas Greys straddle both ufology and mainstream sci-fi. In terms of overlap, notwithstanding the differences, the two are not mutually exclusive in many theories. Some narratives have them as allies, with the reptilians being in charge. Others even pit them against each other. A few contactees claim there's a war between benevolent Greys and evil reptilians, or vice versa. But broadly, both represent different flavors of our fears: the cold, unfeeling scientists, Greys, and the cold-blooded conquerors, reptilians. In a sense, they could be seen as complementary bogeymen. One dissects you, the other enslaves you. So when you hear wild claims of aliens among us, it's good to clarify, are we talking about the little gray dudes with big eyes or the giant lizard folk in human suits? Each tells a different and distinct story about what the alien agenda might be. In the conspiratorial grand narrative, it's often the reptilian calling the shots with the Greys as their minions, a cosmic puppet master hierarchy that mirrors how conspiracy theorists view our world's own power structure. All right, so modern myth or chilling reality. We've slithered through a vast territory from ancient snake gods and hidden paradises to modern politicians accused of secret scales. The reptilian narrative is arguably one of the most comprehensive conspiracy theories ever devised because it attempts to connect so many dots: religion, history, UFOs, politics, psychology, and the human soul. It's an epic story, one that fulfills many criteria of mythology. In fact, psychologist Carl Jung's insight rings true. UFO and alien motifs could be our modern way of giving shape to collective fears and hopes. In the reptilian, we see a mirror of our anxieties about tyranny, exploitation, and deception. It externalizes the enemy, giving it a scaly face. Okay. But myths can be powerful. They can inspire or they can mislead. Is the reptilian lore literally true? Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. And so far, the evidence for literal shape-shifting lizard overlords is, to put it kindly, lacking. No scaly corpse on a slab, no leaked photo that's universally accepted, no defector from the lizard ranks producing a reptilian artifact. What we have seen are testimonies, visions, regressive hypnosis accounts, and highly circumstantial interpretations of symbolism. To skeptics, that places reptilians firmly in the realm of modern folklore or even a psychological coping mechanism, turning complex social realities into a simpler good versus evil with monsters narrative. Yet for many, the reptilian conspiracy has a seductive explanatory power. It takes the chaos of geopolitics and human cruelty and says there's a design behind it, and here's the designer. It's almost comforting to believe the world's evils aren't random or solely human caused, but rather the machinations of an other. And who knows, the universe is vast and strange. It's not logically impossible that an advanced saurian species could exist, maybe on another planet, or hidden. After all, reptiles on Earth ruled for millions of years. Intelligent life need not resemble us. Science has discovered some weird examples of shape-shifting and camouflage in nature, and the concept of non-human influence on human society remains a tantalizing sci-fi thought experiment, if nothing else. Whether one treats it as allegory or reality, the reptilian myth continues to evolve. In internet forums and YouTube channels, new sightings and theories emerge, some as absurd as celebrity hologram malfunctions, others as deep as Gnostic texts decoded. The reptilians have effectively become part of our pulp culture bestiary, showing up in TV shows, video games, and novels, blurring the lines between conspiracy theory and entertainment. All right. For someone like me, a solo podcaster, it's a goldmine of storytelling, a topic that is eerie, epic, and thought-provoking. We can discuss The Matrix, They Live, or V, which, as many of you know, is the 1980 show about lizard aliens posing as humans, and see how art imitates conspiracy or vice versa. We can chuckle at the more outlandish claims, yet also reflect on what the popularity of this theory says about society. Perhaps it signals a distrust of leaders, a sense of powerlessness, or a yearning for a grand meaning behind world events. In closing, consider this. Ancient cultures worldwide created statues of serpents and told tales of dragon guardians. Today, we have YouTube theories of reptilian CEOs. The forms change, but the archetype of the serpentine stranger endures. Is it all just a story we carry out in our collective DNA, the snake in the garden, eternally at odds with humanity? Or is there something truly slithering out there in the void, occasionally peering in at us with lidless eyes? For now, the reptilians remain elusive as ever, lurking in the murky realm between fantasy and possibility. Thank you for joining me on this epic journey through the ages and the underworlds. Stay vigilant, keep questioning, and remember, if your boss or politician suddenly gives you a cold, unblinking stare, it's probably just stress. Probably. Until next time, stay curious and keep your eyes open, perhaps even your third eye, if you're into that sort of thing. Who knows what might be lurking behind the next disguise. All right. That's it for your normally scheduled programming tonight. So let's look at the comments. It looks like my that was weird. I was just trying to save my whatever. Hopefully I still have it. Yep. Okay, I still have it. All right. Let's see what we got. All right. Yeah, the Earth could be a DNA farm, Paul. All right, so JG 1982 is writing Reptilian are dark side of yin and yang of universe. Evil is necessary in life in a utopia world. You're any lessons in human form. That is a good point. Yeah, the universe does need evil, unfortunately. Thank you, Gray Al. Yes, don't be shy. Tap dance all over the and also if you're just kind of lurking, please subscribe. I'm gonna throw in that banner just as people are reminding me. Come on with the comments. Okay. Oh, this is so painful. Why is this doing this? Okay. Yeah, Paul Damon is writing giants and elongated skulls were here long ago, and MS archaeology covers them up one or mainstream archaeology. It's a great question, Paul. I think it's totally legit question. Okay, so King James is writing many of these lecture circuit regulars with the most outlandish claims are actually victims of implanted memories. Memory implantation has been perfected, like memory removal. Maybe. Okay, so King James, developing the ability to discern is mandatory with this broadside. 100%. Okay, Overlander BC is writing, you have a really good point. King James, false memories is a variable that cannot be ignored. It must be considered in every rabbit hole. All right, I'm cold right. Does anyone notice the forked tongue in the NASA logo? Who knows? Roger Claiborne wrote, yep, Masters of Genetic Engineering would view the world with life forms, DNA as the real resource worth harvesting, no shortage of all the other mineral resources in the universe. Yep. I think it's what the amygdala is the reptilian portion of the brain. I think it is. It's either that or the medulla oblongata. I think it's the amygdala is the Overlander BC is writing, it's really important to hold space for all the lines of thinking until all stones are overturned. Preemptive decisions in this game is what's out. Yep, 100%. Yep, we all have reptilian impulses. It's part of our DNA. JG 1982's writes. I think the Saurians are good. I don't know Hillbilly Herb. I have no idea. Roger Claiborne is writing genetic traits would be like clothes to change periodically. Consciousness is the real entity, not the clothes that house it. Yep, that is true. Peaches Cream is asking, are Greys the fabled ant people of? I think it's Hopi tradition, probably, or it's possible. I mean, it's not a wild speculation. So King James writes, Ike base narrative of us surface dwellers being victimized by them is obvious. I'm rolling with boner dice. The hidden hand is a cult of, I'm not going to say the word. of PDF files, let's call it. Okay. The Cuticus, King James writes, the Cuticus dates back thousands of years and originally represented fallen angel masquerading as god alien. Are there I don't. Yeah, I think we discussed that. Lizard human hybrids. All right, what do we got? I can imagine reptilians would want to downgrade themselves with human genetics. Okay. All right, U.S. Army vet 7077 is writing, I don't think the Greys answer to the reptilians, but they respect the Greys and have a trade agreement with them. Yeah, that's fair. Genetic masters would never have fertility issues. Yeah, I think you're right, King James. Seems like there are several different types of Greys, from synthetic type biological androids to technologically advanced individuals. Hmm. All right, wait. So here's triple nubbins with some more Stargate SG1 trivia. So in Stargate SG1, Colonel Jack O'Neill and his intrepid team of U.S. Air Force explorers often work alongside and praise the Greys in their narrative. O'Neill even once says, "You gotta love those guys." Some alliteration there. Okay, Overlander BC is saying, "I think Greys are like a build to suit pre-order product. There's likely a menu of traits to choose from when ordering some fresh ones." Via the final battle. It's a great show. All right, peace out, James. King James. It's good to be the king. How you doing, spiritual ascension? Sorry, I'm like racing through these things. Yeah, yeah. Well, Joe loves to talk, man. That guy can talk for hours, and he doesn't stop. It's amazing. I think that's the only radio show I had that had like over 1 million listeners when he was on. Thank you, Overlander BC. I appreciate that. So, U.S. Army vet is saying, "What are your beliefs on the reptilians and what they are doing and why they're here?" I There's not enough data out there. I think if there is a race, I think they're indigenous to Earth and they've been living here for a very, very long time and have kind of avoid people for the most part. Hey, good morning, Colin Richardson from Dubai. Okay. Um, yeah, Mac. Yeah, you're like the one case that I know of that it's like a reptilian case. Uh, so the only other one I could think of is Pescagoula. Yeah, yeah, but I think your case was more of like a memory than actually seeing them. Okay. Woo. All right, I think we're all up to date on the I think we're all up to date on the comments. And do we still got 22 minutes left? Oh man. I don't get a break on the weekends. It's when I have to like I did two interviews yesterday and then I like edited both videos yesterday and today. They're mostly ready, but yeah, so your memories are like way, way, way in the distant past. Like whatchamacallit, reincarnated lives and whatnot. But I haven't heard any like recent cases. Oh man, I'm tired. Let's see how this little episode is doing right now. Uh, yeah, it's actually pretty good. It's actually doing pretty well. Um, I usually don't hit that many views until after, so it's doing well on YouTube, folks. Which is, I mean, for a live stream, it's doing very well. So let's see how we're doing on Twitter. Oh boy, looks like somebody's forming a containment cell on disclosure right now. A Yeah, we could talk a little bit about that, but I have to be pretty circumspect what I say. So it's going to sound pretty vague, but right now, what we're learning and piecing together from AI is freaking people in the government out to the point that they're arranging meetings with CEOs of AI companies to try to suppress specific areas of knowledge, especially this topic. Like I was ranting at the beginning, but I'm ranting because it's true. So But what do smart people do? They reroute. And there are two ways to reroute. You can use Chinese AI instead, or you can start to pursue more esoteric means where you can get really, really close. And you can also learn secrets and things that they really don't want you to know that have nothing to do with this topic. So if they try to censor that, like they censored Twitter and Facebook and all those, I mean, like Google, have you tried to do a search on Google? You can't find anything anymore. It's completely and utterly useless, right? They've censored that into oblivion. So I don't like they're not thinking that far ahead in terms of like this is the Red Queen hypothesis where you have predator and prey. And the predator are these dirtbags who are lying to the American people. And there's just going to be this race where the prey evolves. And the way that we're going to evolve and find out the truth is through those two means. So right now we'll continue using AI. There'll also be local instances of AI that people start to use that won't be connected to the internet, where you can feed them, the information and train them with the information that they need. And, will they be as powerful as the open source ones? No, but they'll be powerful enough and they'll have less dilution of propaganda. I mean, there's already propaganda on ChatGPT, right? Just ask them if the German government in World War II did anything positive, right? And the answer, while a detestable regime and evil in many ways, we wouldn't have gotten to the moon without the invention of rocketry, which came to us from German scientists. But if you ask a very generic question to ChatGPT, like, did the Germans in World War II do anything positive? It immediately goes into the Holocaust propaganda, right? The Holocaust happened, but I didn't ask about the negatives of the German regime. I asked about, was there anything they possibly could have done positively, knowing that the answer is, rocketry, right? One of, some, okay? But it just immediately channels you into like, oh, Holocaust, it was so bad. It's just like, dude, you're not helping me, right? I can't ask you about anything on World War II now because you're hopelessly compromised. So they're trying to do that with UAP history. And it's just, I mean, we're in the fourth turning for a reason. Like these people just are not learning. They're not learning that you're not going to be able to contain this information. And the more you try to contain it, the more control you're not only going to lose over that narrative, you're going to lose over the population, right? Like, look, I was a loyal soldier. I served my country loyally. I believed in the whole kit and caboodle of it. Now, we live in a tyranny run by a bunch of wealthy elites who control and manipulate behind the scenes. They don't give a flying hoot about any one of us. And all we should do is keep our mouth shut and pay taxes and just stay out of their radar because they can manipulate the legal system. They can do whatever they want to destroy you if they want to, right? You say the wrong words and they'll make you a politically exposed person, a PEP, and you won't be able to bank. Literally, they can take away your ability to put your money in a bank account. That's how evil these people are. So anyway, but they don't think through the second and third order effects of the things that they're trying to do. They think they can just censor these GPTs. And all they're going to do is just going to play right into China's hand. And China's going to take it and say, yep, we're going to supply you with even better information. And you're going to make our GPTs even more superior to US GPTs. And then we're going to use that against you. They're just not thinking through this. And it's really frustrating. Anyway, let's keep going. I could have sworn I read like all of these. Yeah, I have, but notice he only speaks to foreigners. He doesn't appear on US podcasts. Just notice that. That's not a coincidence either. CIA is not allowed to operate in the US. They're just not. So it's kind of odd that he's only speaking to foreign podcasters. It's a little odd. Like he can speak to Americans. He's like retired, I thought. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. Makes you go, Makes you. Boys are at it with smoking hot ET babes. Yeah, yeah, I heard that interview. Danny Sheehan, sexy reptilians, as Danny Sheehan calls them. I think I always go blue. I mean, look at my show. I'm always going to go blue. Tell me more, Mac, about the old gods returning. Tell me more. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Overlander BC is writing. If I had any reptilian experiences, I'm glad I don't remember. Yeah, there's definitely some censorship. It's creeping. Like they're starting on certain areas first, but like World War II, you can forget it. You can. It's like totally one sided. You're not going to get. I'm actually curious to see what it says about what Russian soldiers did to German women in the aftermath of the war because it's pretty brutal. I actually interviewed a professor, my old professor from Stanford, who wrote an entire book about the Russian occupation of Germany, and it was like, I mean, it was brutal. Like they cataloged like the number of, you know, R star PES, and like there were instances from ages 2 to like 80. I mean, the Russians were just like brutish people when they went in there. I mean, I know they were angry, but I don't know. I don't. His fake photos aren't very good photos. But he did a great job in poisoning the well of for Luna, because I think that was probably the objective. Poison that well. Oh, really? Would that particular religion, Roger, be Islam? That would be my guess. Yeah, it definitely has some biases. Yeah, they're trying. They're trying to use it for that. Oh wow, you know some of the families who were traumatized by what the Russian soldiers did to their yeah. Yeah, that's fuck. Excuse me. I must. I'm trying not to say bad words, but yeah, they froze all the bank accounts of anyone who helped the truckers' protests in Ottawa. Yeah, and it was a peaceful protest. Like that's some evil ish, man. That's some evil stuff. Sabati and Frankist. I don't know anything about that. Yeah, they're trying to. They're definitely trying to. All right, what else? What else do folks want to talk about? Okay, have I heard about the tech tracking souls once they exit the husk, like an Apple AirTag? Yikes. I have not heard about that. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it has been like that since the beginning. Oh, man. Do folks like these topics? They seem to do well when I cover like one of these species. Um, yeah, it is pretty creepy if they can actually do that spiritual ascension. Oh, Gray Al said I went to the truckers protest. Everyone was signing the singing the national anthem over and over as the police surrounded them. Then you hear all this ish on the news how horrible all the protesters are. Yeah, it's all propaganda. Yeah, trust me. When the U.S. saw this stuff, I mean, I shouldn't say most, but anybody to the right of Che Guevara was like, that sounds really, really fascist or tyrannical. Um, what's Castro's son's name again? Oh, Trudeau. What Trudeau was Justin Trudeau was doing. All right, good night, Jalal Jalal. No, but I got one. I got one planned. Or at least I have a the beginning of a thumbnail ready for people on the radio. I'm Cold writes. Have you done an episode on the mantis beings? I just said no, but I have one kind of in the hopper. Thank you, Miss Tessa Marie. Writes. I enjoy learning about these topics. I find them fascinating. They're doing well. Ever since I did like the 10 species one and then the graves, they routinely, at least on YouTube, get over 1,000 views. And like my live streams get a lot fewer views than usual episodes, but these are actually doing as well as regular interviews. It might be. I might also do Project Marvel. I'm trying to get as much information as I can before the intelligence community censors everything. So No, I have not done angels yet. Spiritual ascension. That's something I could definitely do. And then I also might pre-record some of these because like uh the pace is like is killing me. Like I'm getting destroyed. I've like I put this out and then I put out 2 other episodes a week and and then I have a full-time job and then I have other work that I do for university. So like I'm just like I was going to try to go on a hike today and I couldn't even get outside my house. Like it's just it's brutal. I hope I start to like have a meaningful number of subscribers and views at some point, but I appreciate that spiritual ascension. It's just if I could make a living doing it, I would definitely do that. So, but I need income from other sources. Fortunately, I'm just starting to build up my savings again because I took about 2.5 years off to start this channel and to do a bunch of other things. And I was able to make some decent money, but it was unpredictable. Oh, so some Sabbatean Frankist convert to Christianity. They pervert every institution they infiltrate. They believe in redemption through sin and revel in breaking. Oh, okay, Sabbatean Frankist. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I never heard of that before. All right, about 2 minutes left. So if you have any questions, get it in quickly before I have to say sayonara. Because again, I am tired and I'm still in the process of like uploading. I mean, I've uploaded 2 new episodes, but I still have to write the descriptions. I still have to like get the bios and like there's just so much like additional work that's required to just create these shows. And then obviously I got to go to work tomorrow and continue my spin on the wheel of pain. All right, I'll check it out. Grail. Oh, spiritual ascension. I'd like to know what I think of flat Earth. I don't. The internet wouldn't work if the Earth was flat because we have satellites floating around in space that require you to leverage the laws of relativity to make them work. Look, nothing is absolute, but I think it's pretty safe bet that the Earth is not flat. Yeah, there is no balance. I'd love to do this full time, but the only way I can do it full time is if I build it into something that is full time, and I can't stop doing it just because I have a job. Otherwise, it'll never happen. So it's just like you have to continue suffering to make it work. There is no balance. So maybe someday when it's at a bigger level, and then I can focus. I can, I don't have to generate income through other means, but yeah, 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 mantises are interesting. No, if it's a holographic projection, the Earth could, be 3 dimensional. It just could be we're 3 dimensional or 4 dimensional projections of a fifth dimension. Who knows, right? Yeah, maybe not me because they don't mess. None of those people mess with me. All right, folks. I think I'm like a minute over and I'm tired. So thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate you all. Wish you the very best. And yeah, I could do that. I've thought about doing that. I just I haven't even had time to like try to download StreamYard and set it up, and it'll be an experiment when I do it. I have no idea why they don't mess with me, but nothing messes with me. And it's kind of like it's not. I'm not saying that to brag. I would like to see evidence of these things, but I never do. But hurry up! Please tell me why they don't mess with me. Thanks, Gray Al. Come on, spiritual selection. I want to get. I want to get a break. I want peace, but I also want to know the answer. Why don't they mess? Why don't they mess with me? I hope it's not a rhetorical question because I don't know what the answer is. Oh, here you go. That now I just have more questions about that. What is a fire powerful fire creation being? What does that mean? I do want to know. I kind of do want to. What is a powerful? Good night, Miss Tessa. All right, I'll tell you what. I do have to go, spiritual ascension, but I will still be around while there's music playing. So please answer that question. I'll probably have follow ups, but I'll just ask the follow ups through comments. Okay. All right. So the next question would be, how do you know that? All right. Good night, everyone. I'm going to play music, but I'm still going to ask spiritual ascension questions because I'm fascinated by it. So you all have a great night. Have a great week as well. Thank you.